Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my way too early running backs that I love for the 2023 fantasy football season. Now, today's video is being recorded in February. The NFL draft hasn't happened yet, free agency hasn't happened yet, but I still do believe that it is important to look into things this early on and form an opinion that we are going to continue to discuss as things shift from now all the way up until late August or early September when you are doing your 2023 fantasy football drafts. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top three way too early running backs that I love for the 2023 fantasy football season. So we are going to begin today's video at number 1. This running back is being drafted the earliest out of the bunch, and the third running back we discuss will be being drafted the latest out of the bunch based upon current ADP on Underdog Fantasy. So we'll begin at number 1 with 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, running back of the Cleveland Browns, current ADP on Underdog Fantasy, running back number 10 off the board at pick 28.6. So in a 12-team league, Nick Chubb is being selected in the third round. Now, if you are someone who has been watching my YouTube channel for a couple of years, or maybe even watched last year, you would know that I'm not the biggest fan of Nick Chubb every single season because of the situation that he's always in. He is there with Kareem Hunt, but this season, Kareem Hunt is a UFA, a unrestricted free agent. And if Kareem Hunt leaves, which is my belief and kind of something that Kareem Hunt hinted upon during last season, if he's out of there, they're obviously going to bring someone else in. It's not like Nick Chubb will be getting 100% of the touches on the backfield. That doesn't happen with any fucking running back in the NFL. But we could see, with Kareem Hunt out of there, that Nick Chubb actually sees more targets in this offense. And it's not like he's a first or even a second round pick. Right now, he's a third round pick on Underdog Fantasy. And a big reason as to why I like to talk about this stuff so early is you can actually do drafts right now on Underdog Fantasy. Link in the video description. If you use the link in the description, you will get a $100 first match deposit bonus. You deposit $100, you receive an additional $100. So running back number 5 in half PPR last season in 2022. Running back number 6 in half PPR points per game. He played in 17 games on the season. And the reason why I bring up the season number and the points per game number is because I believe the points per game number is the most important number when looking at where a player finished, because Nick Chubb played in 17 games. So obviously when you play in that many games, you play in every single game of the season, you're going to finish high at running back if you get as many touches per game as Nick Chubb. But the fact that he was running back 6.5 PPR points per game tells me that just because he played 17 games isn't why he was so good. He was good game in and game out. He had 302 carries on the season, 17.8 per game, ranking third at running back, 1,525 rushing yards, 89.7 per game. Number 3 at running back, 37 targets, 2.2 per game, 31st, 27 receptions, 1.6 per game, 33rd, 239 receiving yards, 14.1 per game, 24th, and 13 total touchdowns, number 3 at the running back position. So obviously a great season out of Nick Chubb. Nothing special in the targets or reception department because Kareem Hunt was there, but overall a great season, even with Jacoby Brissett playing all right and then Deshaun Watson coming back and playing not so hot. I am someone who strongly believes that Deshaun Watson is going to bounce back in a big way in 2023, because if he doesn't, the Cleveland Browns are going to look like absolute fucking stooges for backing up the Brinks truck, giving that guy a lottery size. When you win the lottery and you see those pictures of the people holding the huge checks, that's what they gave Deshaun Watson. Is this going to look like a Kenny Golladay contract? Or are the Cleveland Browns going to be laughing because, hey, while people made fun of this scenario, the situation, oh, we paid him all this money, what if it actually works out? And based upon what we saw in Houston, I have to think that it's going to work out. And even if I'm wrong and Deshaun Watson doesn't necessarily become like this top 5 quarterback in the NFL, as long as he's not dog shit like he was last season, Nick Chubb should be incredible and should easily outpace his running back number 10 ADP. Some interesting efficiency stats to bring up for Chubb last season. 6th in yards created with 984. 57.9 per game yards created. 1st in breakaway runs with 23. 9th in true yards per carry with 4.8. 4th in dominator rating. Dominator rating for running backs is the percentage of total team yards and team touchdowns generated on offense that went the way of Nick Chubb. So he had a fantastic 2022 season. And again, that's with Deshaun Watson and with Jacoby Brissett and with Deshaun Watson not looking like the Deshaun Watson that some might have thought he would look like in 2022 once he was able to clear that suspension. So again, do I think that Deshaun Watson is necessarily going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL next year? I don't think so. I think that maybe that fall off could still occur. But is he going to look much better than he looked last season? 100%, and that gives me a lot of confidence in Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. Again, with Kareem Hunt potentially on the out, this is a huge spot for Nick Chubb. Next up, we move to Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos. Current ADP running back 60, pick 63.9, running back number 20. Now, a report just came out about Javonte Williams that states that, hey, maybe he won't be good to go by the start of the season. Now, he tore his ACL, his LCL, and PLC. That was in week 4 of 2022. Now, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's for sure that he's going to miss a bunch of games or that he's going to be back by week 1. My assumption, based upon what I know about these kind of injuries, is if he misses games, it might be 2, 3, 4 games. Now, obviously, when you're in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd round of the draft, you don't want to be drafting a guy that might miss 4, 5, maybe 6 games, right? He could miss a crazy amount of games. You don't want that. But once you're in the range of pick 63.9, RB number 20, early on in the draft, I like to wrap the metaphorical condom around my roster, right? I don't like to take a humongous risk early on in fantasy football drafts. But you're not early on the draft at pick 63.9, and we have a guy in Javonte Williams who, I know, the stats from last season, they're not going to be mouth-watering, right? They weren't fantastic, but Javonte Williams has it in him to be a top-end running back in the National Football League. Last year, he was the RB 84.5 PPR. RB 42.5 PPR points per game, playing in 4 games on the season, 47 carries, 11.8 per game, number 69. Very nice, I like. Monday Borat, 204 rushing yards, 51.0 per game, number 71. 22 targets, 5.5 per game, 57th. 16 receptions, 4.0 per game, 56. 76 receiving yards, 19 per game, 71. And then 0 total touchdowns. He only played in 4 games, so he doesn't even qualify for a majority of the efficiency stats, so we're not going to dive into some efficiency stats when it comes to Javonte Williams. Now, this offense, in my opinion, is going to look drastically different in 2023 compared to last season. Now, I know everyone is on the ass of Russell Wilson, and Mr. Unlimited, rightfully so, shit the bed in a big way in 2022. He barely threw for more touchdowns than bathrooms that he has in his humongous fucking house. So obviously, not the biggest year for the Denver Broncos offense. Nathaniel Hackett got canned in the middle of last season, and then they bring in Sean Payton. And if there was any coach that could potentially turn this team around, complete 180, would be Sean Payton. Javonte is set to be the workhorse back on the team. They don't have Melvin Gordon no more. They don't really have a clear number 2. Could they draft a number 2? Yes. Could they bring someone in? Yes. They 100% can. But when they bring this player in, they are not going to eclipse Javonte Williams when Williams is healthy. Now, maybe they use the just the tip technique with Javonte Williams, which is ease him in. Ease him in, right? Week 1, if he's healthy. If he's good to go week 1, maybe Javonte Williams doesn't see 15 plus carries. Right? Maybe they ease him in. But I think by the time we're halfway through the season, when Javonte Williams is fully ramped up, you're going to be ecstatic that you drafted him as running back number 20. And I think right now we're getting a cheap price because if we get to August, right, we're sitting there in August and Javonte Williams looks like he's good to go for week 1. his ADP is going to be much higher than this, and I have strong beliefs that Javonte Williams is an incredibly talented running back. Now we move to the final way too early running back that I love, and that is Cam Akers of the LA Rams. ADP pick 81.6, running back 26 off the board right now. Cam Akers was the RB 33 on the season in half PPR last year and finished as the RB 36 in points per game, tied with AJ Dillon, Brad Robinson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire in half PPR points per game. Now, he actually played in 15 games on the season, but only had 9 starts. Now, if you remember last season for Cam Akers, if you were to have drafted Cam Akers, which I advised against last season, you were pulling your hair out every single week. It seemed like you made the wrong decision, that it seemed like, holy shit, Cam Akers is the guy, and then Cam Akers wants to get traded, and then towards the end of the season, it's like, wow, I shouldn't have cut Cam Akers because now Cam Akers is doing all this. Very much a roller coaster ride, up and down affair for Cam Akers in 2022. Now, last year, you were obviously disappointed with your selection. You drafted him in the top 4 rounds, and he did not play that well. This year, he's coming off the board as pick 81, RB 26, pick 81.6. So it's not like you have to pay that premium for him. He had 188 carries, 12.5 per game, ranking 26, 786 rushing yards, 29th at running back, 52.4, 18 targets, 13 receptions, 117 receiving yards, and 7 total touchdowns, 19th at running back. Now, the LA Rams as a whole took a dive off of the edge of the earth last season. It was not even close to what anyone thought this fucking team was going to be in 2022. They came off the Super Bowl, and they had a hangover like no other. They were drinking an Andre the Giant level of alcohol the night before, and instead of being 300 fucking pounds like Andre the Giant, or however big that bastard was, it was a sorority girl. They drank 30 beers. They metaphorically did not do too well. They did not do too well. They shit the bed. Stafford's hurt. Kupp's hurt. Everything goes wrong. Now you look into 2023. Stafford, who knows about Stafford, right? Who really knows? He's going to be good to go for the season, but is he going to look like Stafford in 2022, or is he going to look like in 2021? Because if he looks like in 2021, then Cam Akers is going way too low. Now, they bring in Kyren Williams, obviously, in last year's draft, and that didn't necessarily shut the door on Akers, but it made us worry a lot about Cam Akers as we went through the season. Based upon how Cam Akers finished, though, I believe he earned his role as the number 1 back on the team. In terms of an interesting efficiency stat I brought up, he was the 15th most dominant running back last year, 23.4%. So again, while I don't think Cam Akers is necessarily one of the best running backs in the NFL, I think going at running back number 26 is doing him a little bit dirty based upon the player that I believe that Cam Akers is. Now, I understand why he's going this low, this late in drafts, because people are worried. Is the team committed to Akers? Is Akers as good as he was deep down the stretch of the season? Or is he that guy they saw at the beginning of the season who looked like Stevie Wonder trying to carry the rock? I get it. But ultimately, based upon what we saw at the end of the season, I think Cam Akers is at least worth the flyer at pick 81.6 right now. Again, if you want to hop on Underdog Fantasy, do some early drafts, because I love doing the early drafts. Love scratching the itch. And doing a mock draft right now is basically useless. Useless. But doing an actual draft with money behind it, where you can win a bunch of money if you somehow win, you come in first, to me, it's worth it. So check that out. Link in the video description. Again, you deposit $100, you'll receive a $100 first match deposit bonus using the link in the video description. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And if you missed the wide receiver video, I talked about 5 wide receivers I love. Now, I only talked about 3 running backs in today's video. People will be like, oh, Nick, you could have talked about more. But the running back position could change heavily based upon the draft, especially the later you get on. Early on, right? Oh, you know McCaffrey's the running back of the Niners. Oh, I know that Nick Chubb's the running back of the Browns. But as you get deeper and deeper into the draft, it's like, is Pacheco really the guy for the Chiefs? We'll see in the draft. We'll see in free agency. So thank you guys all for watching. Love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great guys' day. And as always, good boy.